The Ontario government announced today a 16-point plan to cool the housing market. Among the measures, a tax on foreign buyers, a cap on rent increases. Is it enough, or will it do more harm than good? Joining me now is Heather Tremain. She's the CEO for a non-profit developer, Option for Housing. Good to see you, Heather.
Hi, good evening.
So what's your reaction to these 16 measures? Is this going to help people who can't get into the market, who just need somewhere to live?
I think it's going to help the renters in the market who desperately need some protection. I think it's also going to, I hope, cool off the market, the kind of, the increase that we're seeing in the single-family market that then cascades into the condo market. So I'm hoping that we're going to see some changes. We did see this kind of cooling off in Vancouver when some of these measures were put in place, and I think we'll have to wait and see. But I think these are some tools that could do the work.
Your group it's very interesting because you're a nonprofit. You build condos for low and middle income families in the GTA, and then you help them buy the houses. So how obviously the need is there. Give me a sense of who you're working with and how it works.
So we effectively give purchasers a down payment. So we ask them to come up with 5%, and we typically provide them with between 13 and 15% as a down payment, which is really the profit that we out of a project. So with that, they have about an 80% mortgage, so much less of a mortgage than they would typically have if they were buying in the market. So
and what's the demand like?
We have a waiting list right now of about 7,000 folks who are interested in our properties.
So when I saw the measures today, particularly the rent control, I can see how that would work for middle class or upper class people who maybe have money but don't have enough money to buy. It's unclear to me though how rent control would benefit really the low end of the income, the people that don't have anything. So what about affordable housing, social housing, that kind of stuff? Do you have worries on that front?
I think we do. I think the challenge is delivering enough housing. Housing's expensive. I think, the hope is that, as we get more articulation in the federal, in the National Housing Strategy, and as the federal budget gets more articulated, we're going to see some more money for more vulnerable populations. And that was what was promised. And the hope is that, as we see it more kind of worked out in a finer grain, we're going to see some more money for those populations.
So what would the government has talked about? As I said, we talked to Adam Vaughan a couple days ago, and he talked about that national housing strategy. How does that factor into cooling the real estate market, or is that just another part of it? How would that be important in all of this?
I think the National Housing Strategy is hopefully going to help us deliver more supply into the market, which then, reduces, is helping to match the demand a little bit more closely.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I think the National Housing Strategies will be about to large measure.
You were in Vancouver before.
I was.
So I'm sure you feel like you're seeing this again. How is it different? What are the lessons to be learned here?
It feels a bit different. The Toronto market is bigger, it's more diverse. It seems like the Vancouver market is probably a little bit easier to control. I think the foreign purchasers potentially had a larger impact than they probably have in the Toronto market from my understanding of the data. So I think it'll be interesting to see, and I think that's why we're seeing, a number of measures in the Toronto market. It's not just a single measure. We're seeing a 15-part kind of initiative really on the part of the province.
I have talked to many people now over the past couple of days about that what you raised there, data, the fact that we don't have a good picture. What do we need to understand better to be able to come up with better solutions? What's missing for that data, the information part?
I think we need to understand the drivers better. So is it foreign purchasers? You hear the fact that it's 5% of the purchasers in Toronto are foreign purchasers. So is that the driver? Is it kind of sustained low income, low interest? Is it what are those factors? Is it new immigration? Is it that we're not delivering enough supply into the market? I think we really need to understand the whole system a lot better. The CMHC a number of years ago stopped being that repository for data, and in the federal budget, I think it was $240 million that were committed to collecting data on the Canadian housing market. I think that's going to make a big difference in terms of the effective policy to kind of manage the markets that we have today.
You know, you talked about all the different measures that Toronto put in place, and some of them can be done very quickly, and that's fine. But the supply part of this obviously can't be done quickly.
No.
So how concerned are you that this bubble is going to continue, and you know, no one can really control the free market, and so it is going to pop at some point, and people are going to be stuck?
I think the idea that you know, what they're trying to do is actually manage the market. So you don't want the bubble to pop, and that's what I saw continually in Vancouver. I think they're going to try and do here is you want to tame it down. You want to kind of take it off the boil and see if you can kind of, you know, reduce the prices and create a bit more of a stable market. And I think that's where everybody wants to see this go, is a more stable, kind of reliable market.
And do you think that can happen?
I hope so. I think there's going to have to be really careful monitoring of these measures, and I hope the government will treat them almost as experimental. Let's try them out, see if they work, and be prepared to change them if they don't.
And adjust them for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Heather Tremain, you come from an interesting group, and I appreciate your perspective, an important one tonight. Thanks.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Nice to meet you. Canada's new